Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, and this is episode number 51. I'm your host, Rod Bloom, and joining me today is Rachel Shepard. Rachel, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm just great, just hanging in with all this this crap we got going on with the COVID and all that. We have a very special guest with us today, so we're going to bring him right in. We have the one and only number 21, the great Eric Metcalf. Eric, how are things going for you today?
Everything's going great, and just sitting back in Seattle, the sun is out, and relaxing as much as I can. I mean, we're forced to because of the COVID and everything. But, there is some good with all this because all your family's home. You get to spend time with your family, and especially when you have older kids like I do and everyone's in college. So now everyone's home. And so we're spending more time together and doing more things together. So that's the one good thing. I mean, being here in Seattle, it's like I said, it's sunny right now. I needed to rain for two reasons. I don't want to pay to water my grass. and then if it rains, everybody won't be out, and we can get through this, right?
Yes.
That's true.
Hey, twofer.
Right.
So what have you been doing to pass your time over the past? What has it been? Oh, we're going on 2 months now with this stuff.
Just
over 2 months, 60 something.
Yeah.
I pretty much do the same thing every day. I'm an early riser, so I get up at between 5 and 6 in the morning. And so I get up, I watch the news, I think about what I'm gonna do, which I know it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and that's gonna walk 7, almost 8 miles with my weight vest on, and then I'll come back home, and then I'll lift some weights, and then I have to try to figure out the day. Then I start doing things in the yard, doing things around the house, and then usually about 3 o'clock, I start smoking cigars and sitting back and relaxing, winding down to get ready to do the same thing the next day. It's Groundhog Day.
What is it that you say? Smoke them if you got them.
Smoke them if you got them. See, I don't know. See, and I'm not. Don't say this. Don't say this to anyone. And I'm gonna tell you this because I don't know if anyone. And I don't. I always say smoke them if you got them, but I don't know if anyone really pays attention that the smoke them is the EM in capitalized. I don't, because no one's ever mentioned that. Because I said I'm gonna put the EM capital just to see if someone catches on, and no one ever mentioned it. And
you just told on yourself.
Everybody knows now.
Well, then no. I mean, you're gonna. That's okay, but it's okay. But no one. But it's been a long time now. So I mean, if you haven't said anything by now, then you probably haven't picked up on it.
I'll be honest. I've never noticed.
Breaking news.
Right,
Breaking news right here.
Right.
I ain't gonna lie. I never noticed.
See, the EM, both EMs are capitalized.
I'll be damn. Okay.
Well, we're very excited to have you here. Spend a little bit of time with us. We've got just some questions. We're just gonna kind of talk for a while. I'm gonna pass it over to one of your biggest fans, Rachel, and she's gonna kick us off. So, Rachel, what do you have?
Hey, Eric. I'm sorry. I warned you.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
okay. You're gonna have to edit this, right?
That's what I love about Cleveland.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are so special. That once one of us fans gets the chance to talk to you guys, it's like we lose all control of our thinking ability and don't know how to process words to come out of our mouth.
See, and then on the flip side, I always tell people whenever I'm feeling down or feeling low, I'll fly to Cleveland, and there are people there make me feel good about myself.
Oh, great. Yeah. Hey, if that's what we're here for, that's what we're here for, brother. That's okay. No, but seriously, I do have a couple of questions that I wanted to throw your way and kind of see where you're at with them, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right. So the first one I got was when I was doing the research on you, and I honestly didn't know this until, a couple months ago, that you were a jumper, a long jumper, and a sprinter, right, in high school?
Yes.
And I was wondering if you thought that helped you out and gave you like a special skill set or something to be one of the best punt returners in the NFL when you played.
Well, I'll say this. My entire life, I ran track and played football, and then even into playing, being at the University of Texas, I long jump, won a couple of national titles in the long jump, and I always, especially in this day and age, I find it hard to believe that like a lot of college football coaches don't allow their players to run track like back in the day. And I find it hard to believe because when everybody starts to get ready for the combine and get ready for pro days and all that, the first thing that they focus on is the 40, right? And so, so why don't you let people get faster? Because speed kills in all sports. And so, if you're able to run track and get yourself faster, it will make you a faster person on the field. And when you play fast and you don't have to think about things, it makes it a lot easier. Now, the long jump, as far as and bringing that into it, I think in turn that helped me as a football player, because it's an event where you run down the runway almost full speed, then you have to gather yourself, get ready to jump, and try to jump as far as you can. And then do little things in the air, not to break your momentum, not to be all over the place. And so I think that taught me body control, being able to do things at top speed and still control my body in order to achieve what I wanted to do in the long jump. So track does definitely help football players, and I think in every sport, it's the speed is what kills.
And it helps you jump over the opposite players when you're actually having a punt return.
if I have to, because when it's all said and done, I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to be hit.
Oh yeah.
I think it's overrated to get hit. Because I tell people all the time, if little kids talking about, I would have trucked this guy, I would have ran over him. That's fine and dandy, but I would have ran around him. So now I don't have to get hit, and I can still score. You run into this guy, and the chance of you scoring aren't as great as mine if I run around him.
And you didn't get hurt,
Right.
Jeez,
I don't want to get hit. I think getting hit is what or being afraid to get hit is what kept me lasting so long, because I was trying to run away from it.
And you aren't normally the biggest guy out on the field either, Eric. So I think that was a very smart strategy. Yeah.
Ever from the time
I was ever
like ever from, because I mean, when I was young, when I was playing little league football, so I played high school football at 13 years old. I went to high school at 13, and so I was as a freshman in high school, I was like 5'2", maybe 130 pounds or what have you, and then so I was always a smaller guy on the field. So nobody wants to get hit, especially. And then and then moving forward to college, I played my entire freshman season at 17 years old, and didn't turn 18 till January after. So I've always been smaller, and I've been younger than everyone. And so you darn right I was hurt. I mean, I was scared.
Yeah, I would be too. I was under 5'4", which I'm at now, until I was 16 years old. My whole, I was short. I still can't reach the top shelf in anything. So it's one of those things to where I did cross country for about 2 years in high school. And I think it helped me run away from a lot of the bullies and stuff, because I had more endurance.
Right.
So when you said that you're more scared to get hit and you'd rather run away from them or around them, I completely understand that.
It only makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or here's what we could do. We could keep telling ourselves that.
It makes sense to me. I mean, I feel like it worked.
Hey, it totally works. I see no problem with it. But it goes along with my second question. And I think it was in 1988 that you qualified or completed the Olympic trials.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that type of competitive environment helped you prepare for your career in the NFL?
Now I'm going to just kind of hurt you right now with this answer, because being in the Olympic trials that year, that was 1988.
Yeah.
I had just won U.S. championships and had my farthest jump ever.
Oh, wow.
The Olympics that year were in Seoul, Korea, and they were going to be in September, which was my senior year in college.
Yeah.
And so it would have been going on during football season.
Oh.
So in my mind, and I hate to say this, that was the only time in my life that I did not want to win, because I didn't want to have to make that decision. I wanted to play football. Football is what I had thought about doing my entire life. That was, that was my senior year. They talked about I was a Heisman candidate and all that stuff. And Barry Sanders had a phenomenal year, so I wouldn't have won it anyway. But the fact is, a lot of people have Olympic gold medals, and I don't mean to slight them, but not many people have Heismans, right?
True story.
Right. And so,
true story.
So I wanted football from the time I knew, my dad playing it. That is what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to have to make that decision. And I'm not going to say I didn't go out there and try, because there were some great jumpers: Carl Lewis, Mike Powell, Larry Myers, Mike Conley, all these guys that I was jumping again, and I might not have beat them anyway. But subconsciously, I didn't want to make that team, because I knew that I was going to say, I'm not going. I'm playing football.
Right.
Wow. That's real right there. Oh, wow.
Tough call.
All right.
Tough call. Yeah.
And just think about it. If you would have gone, you may not have been a Brown.
Right. Because we never know. Because I would have redshirted, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then come back and play football the next season, and then we don't know what would have happened.
I couldn't picture you not being a Brown. That's like that. You just blew my mind right there.
And I can't either now, because I mean, I played for 5 other teams. I don't really count them, because I'm just being honest, because I just when people talk to me about football, you play for all these. I'm a Brown. I play for the Cleveland Browns. I mean,
damn right.
And I tell people, and even before they put me in the Browns legends, I used to call Dino Lucarelli and all those guys, and I used to tell them, if you guys do not make me a legend soon, I'm gonna blow this place up.
That's awesome.
And I felt that way, and it was just because playing in Cleveland for the 6 years before I got traded, it was a wonderful time. I love playing. Granted, we had some good seasons, so that made it even more fun. But I just like being in that atmosphere, because it was still like college, the way the fans feel about the team and the rivalries, and that I fueled off that. I like being in that environment. And so, just to play there and have good seasons and do a lot of things that are memorable to people is just something special to me. And not to mention all the Hall of Famers and the guys who have come through there before me, that to be a legend just like them, or be mentioned in the same sentence as those guys.
Yeah.
It's just a special feeling. Like, you go to other teams and it's not the same. You're not talking about Jim Brown, Otto Graham. You're not talking about those. I mean, they have guys who are in the Hall of Fame, but you're not saying Jim Brown. You say Jim Brown, you think arguably the greatest football player ever.
Yeah.
You talk about someone like Otto Graham, we're talking about somebody who went to a championship every year of his career, right?
Every year.
Right.
Yes.
So people don't know that. And so to be mentioned with those guys is something special. I mean, I know I'll never forget when I got traded to Atlanta. And
Sorry.
and I'm not gonna lie again. I asked to be traded, but it wasn't to them I wanted to be traded to.
Yeah.
I wanted to be traded to the 49ers.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember playing in Carolina. I think it was my second year. My first year. It was my first year. It was first year in the life. Playing it. Daryl Talley and I. Yes, we were in Carolina, and I walked off the bus. And Daryl Talley and I walked off the bus about one behind the other, and I looked at him, and he's been in Buffalo, of course. And I looked at him, and I said, "Where the hell are the fans?"
Yeah, we're a little crazy here.
As a Cleveland Brown, I'm used to walking off the bus and being mobs of fans at games, and then to walk off the bus and nobody be there, that was a little different to me. And I was like, yeah. I wish I could have played in Cleveland my entire career. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have happened because of the move and all that, but I honestly wish that I could have been one of those guys who said, I did 12, 13 years at the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
Yeah. God, I understand you asking to be traded and stuff, but it's still, it was a little heartbreaking. I remember for me, pardon, when I saw that you got traded, and I remember this specifically because my grandpa had called me up and said, "Did you see what happened?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "But, what are we going to, you can't do nothing, and that's where I think a lot of us as fans feel hopeless, and helpless when we see some of our favorite players being, dished away sometimes, Yeah,
I mean, it's a tough deal. I mean, because, I wanted to be traded because I felt like they weren't going to use me right. Back in that day, the way they played football was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and that doesn't suit somebody who's 5'10", 190 pounds, right? I'm like, they're not going to give me the ball 26, 25 times and rushes in between the tackles, but and so I thought that if I were to be traded, I could go somewhere. And Frisco was a spot for me just because I knew how they had used Roger Craig. He had rushed for 1,000 yards and received for 1,000 yards. So I was like, oh, I can go there and I can get this. I can have the same opportunities and I might be able to do all the things that I wanted to do. And so that's why I really wanted to go to the 49ers. I had even started negotiating the contract with the 49ers because the Browns had given me permission to do so. And the day I got traded, Yancey Thigpen, who was playing for the Steelers at the time, I was in Orlando playing a flag football game for the NFL against, and so I was walking off the field and he said, "You just got traded." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know." And he said, "To the Atlanta Falcons." And I was like, "What?"
Holy crap!
Wow.
So I run straight in there, and I called my agent. I was like, "Wait, what happened?" And then he said, Atlanta had offered a little more at the last minute, and so that's how I became a Falcon. I mean, and it worked out with June. I loved playing for June and everything, but it just lets you know that you have no control. Just like you said, you the fans have no control. At that time, I didn't have any control either.
I that blows me away. It's like, wow. Okay, cool. Wow, that's a great story, though. Mm-hmm. That just goes to show you that it's like, it's nothing personal, it's business.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And that it's a money-making thing for not only the players, which is great, but for the NFL as well, and you got to do what's best for both, I guess.
And that's why I don't like. I mean, I understand it, but it's hard for me to see when people get mad at players when they leave, because these guys got to worry about their careers, their families, and everything. And I get it that if someone leaves your favorite team, that a fan could be upset, but at the same time, if that guy doesn't produce, he's going to be cut.
Yeah.
So or he's
That's all
going to
it
be
is.
or he's going to be traded, or he's going to be
Yeah.
so because it is a business, and that's why I truly love college football more, because it's when you love a college football team, you love that team. There's always
Oh yeah.
you love players that come through and all that, but you're always going to love that team no matter who the players are, and that's what I appreciate about that.
Right. So, Eric, I wanted to, we're going to talk about the game that everybody associates with you a little bit later, but I wanted to kind of,
Against the Saints.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that one. So everybody talks about the Steelers game. So Rachel's actually going to talk to you about that in a little bit here, but I
Because
kind of
I'm
wanted,
such a Steelers fan.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I want to talk about the Raiders game where you scored the 4 touchdowns.
Heck yeah.
And I understand why people talk about the Steelers game because, oh my God, because it was against the Steelers, and everybody knows what happened. And honestly, I watched that video talking about the Steelers one a couple times, and getting prepared for this. I can't watch it just without kind of getting choked up, and it's kind of it. Some of it is watching your performance, but a lot of it is watching the fans' reaction too, and just the
Right.
fans just cheering and not stopping.
You're gonna make me cry. Stop, Rod.
Well, so I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on just the feeling, the difference between that Steelers game and that Raiders game, and just kind of what it feels like for you, for a player to take a game over, and kind of what your feelings are. There feelings for yourself, for your teammates, kind of what are your emotions when you're playing that well in that way in a game?
It's a great feeling because you feel unstoppable. I mean, the Raider game, like you said, it was 4 touchdowns, and it should have been 5, but Phil Cox underthrew a ball. But it should have been 5. And so I'll start with the Raider game. I mean, that game. See, when it comes to playing football and getting dressed, I'm a very superstitious person. I like to do everything the same. I put the same sock on the same way every time. I need my socks and everything to look a certain way. And I'll never forget at the Raider game, coming in the locker room and going to my locker, and it wasn't the same socks that I had normally worn. And I went to the equipment man. I was like, "Where are the socks?" He's like, "We ran out of them. We don't have any more of those." I'm like, "Oh," and I was like stressing. I'm like, "What am I gonna do?" Because the socks I wore, that the stripes were lower on the socks, and so they would be closer to my ankle, and instead of mid calf like the league said you're supposed to wear them. And so I was like, "How am I gonna do this? What am I gonna do?" So I ended up wearing a pair of sanitary socks under the regular game sock, and then I pushed the regular game socks all the way down so the stripes would be close to where they normally were. And once I finally figured out I could do that, then I started to feel good about it again. and so I was like, okay, this is supposed to know. Because I'll never forget, Terry Taylor was on the team. He's like, "You thought this game wasn't going to go right because of your socks." I said, "You're damn right, because this is how I am." And then, at the Steeler game, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I didn't practice all week because someone had awkwardly fallen on my knee the week before in Cincinnati, so I didn't even practice till Friday, which isn't really a practice. And I didn't know how I was gonna go, and I got there and started warming up, and I told Bill, I'll be all right. I'll be fine. I'm good. And then things just took off from there. And I mean, and it's a wonderful feeling, especially like you said, the way how loud the stadium was. It's a division rivalry. We're playing for first place in the division at the time. You're at home, and so to win the game with what maybe 2 minutes left in the game or something like that.
Yep.
It was special because it was so loud, and I appreciated being able to perform like that on the big stage. Only thing I'm really mad about that entire deal is that Joe Carter hit the home run to get Toronto a World Series, right? And so by him doing that, that kept me from being on the cover of SI.
Oh, you were robbed.
Right.
Oh, you were robbed.
Wow.
I mean, hitting the walk-off home run to win a World Series is kind of a big deal, I think.
That's pretty big.
That's kind of big. But you know, but
Just a smidge.
I always think about that, and I think about, my uncle and my brother were in town for the game. My uncle thinks he's the reason that I scored those 2 touchdowns because I came home from the hotel that morning. He cooked me breakfast, so he's the reason.
Oh, okay. You feel
and
up for it.
Right, and then so and it, like I said, it's a wonderful feeling. The whole city's going crazy, and after the game. I was with my uncle, my brother. Were going to eat, and they were like, "Where do you want to go eat?" And I was like, "I'm not going to be able to do this. Let's just go to Wendy's," because I knew how everyone felt at that time. I was not going to be able to go somewhere and sit down and enjoy my meal. right.
Yeah, there's no way, because I know I would have stalked you. I'm sorry, but I would have.
Hey, but when you really think about it, those are the things that you play for. Those are the moments that you play for. If you're not playing for game-changing moments, or you don't want to be the best at something, then why do you even do it? And so that, like I said, it goes back to what I said before. That's why I appreciate being a Cleveland Brown, because I was able to have those moments that had the city feeling a special way, and I can say that I was able to do it more than once, and so that's why I really have a love for Cleveland.
Yeah, so Eric, the Browns currently have 2 pretty good running backs, and with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and people are. I've seen some people kind of agonize over the splits of the carries and things like this. I want to take you back to 1992 when you shared the backfield with Kevin Mack, Tommy Vardell, and Leroy Horde. First of all, what were the Browns thinking back then? They were drafting a new running back like every season, weren't they?
Yeah, and I don't know.
I don't know what they were doing.
I thought when I got there in '89, I thought we were just fine. I mean, granted, Leroy and Tommy were good football players, but I thought we were just fine. And when you think about it, it's hard, especially when you have 4 people that you're trying to give the ball to. I mean, it's tough with Nick and Kareem. How do you get because no one is going to be happy. So you have on this team now, you have Nick, you have Kareem, then you have OBJ, you have Jarvis, you now have Austin Hooper, you have David. Everybody is going to want the ball, but if somebody's not going to get it, I want the ball a lot. I want it all the time, because because obviously you feel like the more time you have the ball, the more opportunities you have to score a touchdown. But I'm also one of those guys that if you give me the ball 5 times and I'm able to score 3, I'll take that, because I'd rather have touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'd rather have touchdowns. And so, it's so in this case, and in every case on every team, it's a matter of the coaches figuring out how to use individuals in order for the entire team to be successful. And I mean, and Nick Chubb is a wonderful running back, and to me, he's the star of the team.
Yeah.
And if we lean on him, then it'll make it a lot easier for everybody else out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely. So back to you, Rachel.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was just listening to the story.
Yeah.
I can sit here. It's like I drive my kids crazy because sometimes I'll sit there and watch highlights or, game tape and stuff like that. And they're like, "Ma, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm watching the Browns." And they're just like, "Oh, okay." Because I zone out and I don't realize what I'm doing. But my next question for you, Eric, it goes back to when you played the Steelers, right? And you said that's one of your favorite memories because of, how basically Muni shook, when you did all those great, fantastic plays. And it really brought me back, to when I was younger. But with the 6 seasons that you spent with us, what are some of your best memories besides that one that you have for this team?
See, that's not my favorite game. It only has become my favorite game because it's everyone else's favorite game. Right? The 4 touchdown game isn't my favorite game. Beating the Raiders the next year on the last second play, that's not my favorite game. My favorite game is a game we played the Oilers in Houston, and it's a game that we lost.
What?
And it's my favorite game because I had over 100 yards receiving and I think 80 to 90 rushing. And that's how I envisioned my entire career being. And so so when I had a game like that where I almost did 100 in both, I felt good about it because this is how it's going to be. This is how it's supposed to be. And it didn't work out. And so that's why that's my favorite game, because it was something I was used to doing in college, in high school, and even in Little League.
So do you think that frustrated you when you didn't play to that level that you expected yourself to play at?
No, it didn't frustrate. It didn't frustrate me that I didn't play to that level, because I feel like I play at a high level. But what frustrated me is that I don't feel like I had the opportunities that I thought that I would get throughout my career, because I feel like we have all these geniuses in the NFL, these offensive gurus, but it seemed like for all these gurus that I played for, no one knew how to use me.
Yeah, it was about the way they used you, not your performance.
Exactly, and so that's why it's kind of hard to look at it like that, because it's tough, because I know that if I played today, it'd be totally different. I'd be used like Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, those type of guys who can catch and run the ball, and I'd be doing all the things that I want to do. In fact, I'd probably be holding out because I'd have so many yards, and because they would use me, and I'd still be able to return punts and kicks and things like that, and have the ball a whole bunch of times, and so with more opportunities to score.
Well, that makes total sense now that you explain it that way. I was just curious to see, how you felt as a player, on twofolds. Obviously, you don't think, and I think some of us think, that you weren't utilized in a good way, which still continues, with players today, especially on the Browns, and especially last year, but then it goes to my next question is, you had like several jobs, basically is what I remember. And I wanted to know what you thought your position was as a player. Did you think you were a running back? Did you think you were a wide receiver? Did you think you were a punt returner?
Well, I will say that I thought I was a running back, and particularly because it's something that I had done my entire life, right? Mm-hmm. I've always been a running back. But when I really look at, as you say, I had a whole bunch of jobs. I think I'm a football player, because I could play other positions. I mean, we talk about who are the greatest football players of all time, but I would ask the person, what other position could they play? And so I think, like I said, I think I'm a running back who I know I could play receiver if I really had to. So I like to call myself a football player because like you said,
Universal.
I could do a Swiss Army knife, right? I could do it all, and and looking back on my career, I just once again I feel like I wasn't used right, but
Hmm.
I think I was a victim of my own talent
Yeah.
because he can run the ball, so we'll let him run the ball, but he can also catch it, so we'll split him out. We'll
Hmm.
let him play receiver, and so no one really knew what to do, and it always goes back to what to do with me. I mean, because once again, I wasn't 6'2", 225 pounds, so I'm not a guy who's going to be running up in
Yeah.
between the tackles and gaining a whole bunch of yards that way. And even if you do it with a smaller guy, you gotta have the line that can
Hmm.
account for that. I mean, you gotta create holes and nothing against my teammates, but when I think about like my dad being about the same size as me playing and
Hmm.
and running for a lot of yards, I think about the fact that he had uh, a couple Hall of Famers and like 3 or 4 All Pros on his offensive line also. So that makes
Yeah.
a difference. You know,
Do you think that hinders some players these days? Do you think they should be more versatile in, the positions that they play? Like if they had to play like all the positions that you were able to play as well?
I don't know if I think that players should be more versatile because I mean players do what they're able to do. I mean,
Yeah.
so and if you don't have the ability to split out as a receiver from the running back position, I don't just say, okay, this player is not that good because he can't do that because a lot of people can. But
Yeah.
what I find myself doing, I really appreciate those guys who can do it more when I like when I think of a Christian Campbell, when I think of those Dalvin Cooks, when I think of Alvin Kamara, I know that these guys are football players because they can move around
Yeah.
and still be successful. So that's so in my mind, I think about it's more of those guys. I think about what they are able to do as opposed to what players can't do.
That makes sense. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, talking about versatility, Eric, I got to tell you, I was looking at your stats in preparation for this, and it completely surprised me to see that you didn't return punts regularly for the Browns until really your fourth season.
Right. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I mean you're correct me if I'm wrong. You're second on the all-time touchdown list for punt returns, right? With
Right.
10.
Yes.
So yeah, in your first 3 seasons, you had a total of 12 punt returns.
Because we had Ice
Wow.
Cube. And
Yep.
and no one knows that and so and I don't like to tell people, but sometimes I'm forced to tell people, you know, Devin Hester is a wonderful returner, and he had a lot of returns for touchdowns and everything, but he can't ever be the first person to say he was the first person to return double figures in punt returns.
Right.
I, I can say that and didn't even start out doing it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, those are just prime. I mean, obviously you were good at it your entire career, but I mean, your first. And most guys return punts early in their career, and it's when they're going to be the best at it. And you weren't even doing it then, and you still end up with, first guy to have 10 touchdowns.
And you say because because it was 12 in the first 3 years, right?
Yeah,
And
you had
and
12. All of them were in 91. Yeah.
I was just about to say that because the first 2 years Cube was there, so all I did was return kicks, and
Hmm.
then Bill's first year, Bill came to me and he said he wanted me to return punts because it was just another way for me to get the ball, and I was cool with that. And I mean, you're always cool with it, but my first question, you're going to make sure everybody blocks, right?
Yeah, yeah, please.
And so and so and so it was fun, but then I separated my shoulder that year, and so I didn't
Oof.
play. I didn't play the last 8 games,
Yeah.
and back then you could come off IR and play, but we weren't going to the playoffs, so they didn't have me come back and play, and so that's why I was only 12 that season, and
Wow.
and then from there on it was a full-time gig.
Yeah.
Well, he obviously saw something in you that, I mean, the fans, of course, probably saw, but, when a coach like, Belichick sees something like that, and, it's got to be something, especially now knowing what he's done, with the Patriots.
And I don't know. I mean, I knew he knew that I could make plays in the punt return game, but I know it had to do with me complaining about not getting the ball as well, and so because that was one of his arguing points as far as me doing it, because I really didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really that smart at the time, so I really didn't want to do it. and I say that because when I got in the NFL, I did not want to return punts. I did it in college, but I didn't want to do it in the NFL. I didn't return kicks in college, really, and I returned punts. And then when I started in the NFL, I returned kicks, but I didn't really return punts when I first started. And I didn't want to, because everybody thinks about you standing back there, the ball is kicked sky high, and you're looking up, and guys are running full speed down there to tackle you. And so, when you're really not that smart, those are the kind of things you're thinking about. But then you have to think about it. You don't have to catch the ball. We're talking about punts. You don't have to catch the ball. You can always fair catch. And if the punter messes up, you catch the ball and you run it right back down their throat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen.
So.
Amen. Can you tell that to the guys now, so when we play again, that they know, hey, just run it down their throat?
When I watch, I will. When I watch punt returners now, I don't. To me, it looks like, for the most part, I can't say everyone, but no one. It's not like, it doesn't look like people are trying to score, because I think it's more so get possession of the ball, which you're going to get anyway if you don't touch it. Get possession of the ball, and try to get 10 yards, get a first down. Whereas the great returners are guys who think every time they catch the ball that they're going to take it to the house. Yeah. And so I think it's a mindset when you're back there. It's about a mindset of I'm going to score. I have people in front of me who are blocking, who can help me score. Let's go out there and score a touchdown. Forget a first down. I want touchdowns, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Eric, you're, as far as I can tell, you are still the only player with 2,000 rushing yards, 5,000 receiving yards, and 9,000 return yards. Okay. When you were traded to Atlanta, you went to Atlanta and you catch 100 balls for 1,189 yards.
Wow. I remember that. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What did that do for you? I mean, was that some kind of validation for you? I mean, I always wondered if that kind of told you that maybe you should have been playing more receiver, or that you just weren't used right. I'm not sure, but I was just thinking that if anybody else, I know Darren Sproles, I don't know if he's going to play anymore or not, but if anybody else does get the 2, 5, and 9, I'm pretty sure they won't have 1,000-yard receiving season as well. So I just kind of wondered what that Atlanta season what you felt after that season. What did that mean to you to put up numbers like that?
Well, it's kind of crazy, because I didn't think that getting there, I didn't think it was going to work in the beginning. I mean, I was practicing and everything, and it was just tough. I was like, oh, this is not going to be cool. this is not going to be cool. I've never played receiver, and now I'm playing against DBs when in the past when I was split out from the running back position, I was playing against linebackers and safeties, and so now you're putting me out here to play against the best corners in the league, and you're asking me to play a position that I had never played before, like full time, where it's something that I just worked on all the time. I went out there because in previous years I went out there and did it because that's what was asked of me, and I could do it. But after catching 104 balls and scoring a lot of touchdowns and going to the playoffs, I felt really good about it. I mean, I was like, okay, but this just goes to show you that I can run the ball, I can be a receiver. It's just a matter of being in the right situation. That's for me. That's what it's all about. My entire career, just trying to be in the right situation where a coach is gonna use me right and give me the opportunity. And that's in June when I got there, he was like, you're gonna catch a whole bunch of balls, you're gonna have opportunities to make plays, and he was dead on, and he actually put me in the backfield as well and let me run the ball there. I mean, I returned punts, so it was another opportunity to have the ball, and then I returned kicks once we got deeper into the season. And then they put me back there to return kicks as well, just like I said, just another opportunity to have the ball. But I think what made it easier for June to understand, because June he had actually played and understood when you have somebody who can do all kind of things, you give them the opportunity to do it.
We're going to take a quick pause to thank our sponsor, Skippin' Stones. Find Skippin' Stones on Etsy.com, SKIPPINSTONEZ. Handmade stone, shell, and sea glass jewelry, pebble art, and frame poetry. Guys, if you messed up Mother's Day, it's not too late to make amends. You can order something and hopefully make things right. Also find yoga bracelets. Follow Skippin' Stones on Twitter at Skippin' Stones. Yeah. Yeah, well, he was right about his prediction about you catching a lot of balls. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You think?
Yeah.
I would think for me, it would have been like somewhere in the back of my mind. I think I would have felt like, see, told you so. I knew I wasn't being used the right way, and I knew I could have done more in regards to, all that you did in Atlanta. I mean, you go next year and you got over 1,000 yards. I mean, come on. You had to have thought that at some point.
But once again, in my mind, I think I'm a running back. So you don't really think about it that way. I mean, and so it was validation, whereas I knew that I'm a football player who can go out there and play lots of positions. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you play receiver, in order for you to get the ball, so many things have to go right. The line has to protect. The quarterback has to throw the ball. You have to run the route. Then you have to catch it. Whereas playing in the backfield, and that's why I always wanted to play in the backfield, because they just turn around and hand it to you or pitch it to you and you run. Yeah. You don't have to worry. You don't have to wait for all these other things to take place before you actually get the ball. So I just wanted the ball in my hands, and as many times I could get it, I would be happy if I could get it close to 20.
Completely understand. I guess my question for you then next would be, go back to the Steelers game, one of the most memorable games in Browns history. You had those 2 touchdowns. One was for 75 yards. The other one was for 91 yards or something like that. Something insane.
Something like that.
Pretty close, yeah.
And then it was and then I wanted to know, I've always wondered this, what is that feeling like, knowing that you just basically, like you said, shoved the ball down their throat and scored against a division rival like the Steelers?
Wow, hurt.
Oh, God.
Why? And being hurt at the same time. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it felt. I mean, obviously, it feels good because once again, you want to have memorable moments. I mean, you have players who have been very good in the NFL who've never been to the playoffs, who've never really won games, but they've been in the NFL for a long time, and some of them probably in the Hall of Fame. And we have one who's a very good player who will be in the Hall of Fame in Joe Thomas.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when I think about it, and I think about myself, because I can't speak for anyone else, but I think about myself, I think about the fact that I was able to go out there and make game-changing plays.
Amen.
Team game plays that
Yes.
just determine whether we won or lost. And so that's the thing that makes me feel good about it, because I know when I stepped on the field in Cleveland that I have games where if I don't return a punt or a kick or even catch some balls, that we probably wouldn't have won that game. And so
Yep.
I always go back to it. If you're not doing something to be the best or be remembered for doing something, then what's the point? Because I don't want to just step on the field and be in the NFL and say, "Oh, I was in the NFL." I want to be somebody who people know when it's all said and done, when my career is over, and you might not know me if I walk by you on the street, unless we're in Cleveland, of course.
I was going to say,
we would know.
Yeah. Come home. Let's show you. We recognize you. Come on.
Unless we're in Cleveland, of course. But if I tell you my name, you say, "Oh, okay." And
Mhm.
so
That's true.
That's what I think about. And so once again, just having the opportunity to make game-changing plays is what's fun to me.
Well, you played that game injured too, didn't you? You said that was the game you busted your knee, didn't you?
They busted my knee the week before.
Yeah.
And so yeah. See, see, a lot of people don't know. And then the Buffalo Bills game, the kickoff return to playoffs in '89.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know I was playing on a fractured foot.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh.
No.
Oh my gosh.
You're just trying to give everybody else a chance to catch you, Eric.
So because when we played Houston to win the division on that year, I didn't play the entire game because I had my foot just started hurting, and we went X-rayed and it was fractured.
Mm.
And so I didn't play in the second half of that game. So 2 weeks I tried to get ready to play in the playoff game. Didn't practice then. One shoe was way bigger than the other because I had an orthotic and all kind, foot wrapped up and everything else to get ready to play.
That's unbelievable to me. And I guess this follows my next question. Speaking of that, that one of my favorite games was you against the Jets, and I say you specifically because you made a 98-yard punt return in that game. That's it. Kick return. Right, I apologize. I knew you would correct me if I got it wrong. But okay, so here's the thing about that. That's when my grandfather said you had some great feet. And I'll never forget that. So when, and that he was very impressed with you, and him being an old timer, how does something like that, like a compliment like that, make you feel, knowing that guys like my grandfather, who people that listen to this podcast know that, has been a fan since the beginning, knowing that my grandfather specifically picked you out and said, you're one of the greats on this team. How does that make you feel knowing that?
Well, it makes me feel, I would say first, if your grandfather was able to see my feet right now, he wouldn't think they were so great. I need a pedicure.
I get it. Honey, I am with you. Yes, I get it. I get it. The dogs are barking, huh?
Yeah. But you know, it's great because I mean, when you talk about your grandfather being there to watch all the greats, the Jim Browns,
Yeah.
and those guys who had come before, and knowing on site what good football looks like,
Yes.
and then for him to pick me out, it makes me feel good. I mean, it really does because when you think about someone older who's seen a lot of things, they're basing it on what they've seen before.
Yeah.
And what your grandfather had seen before was greatness.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
now for him to say, okay, this guy has had great feet until this very moment. This guy had great feet, and I know when he's saying that it's because of what he's seen before.
Yeah, and he wasn't one to give out compliments either. He's, tough as nails. He immigrated to this country with nothing, with his parents when he was 5. And so he worked his way up. And so when he sees people like yourself, or saw people like yourself, hardworking and quick and on his beloved team, and for him to give a compliment, it always surprised me. And so when he said that about you, that's why I think you always stuck in my head, as one of my favorite players, because he didn't come by that easily or lightly. When he says something, he meant it, and that's his word, and you don't question his word when it comes to stuff like that. And so I always wondered when play, like you said, it's a compliment and you appreciate it. And that just goes back to what I told you before we started recording, how much you mean, players like yourself mean to this team, and to the fans,
And it's different for me because I got to watch my dad play.
Yeah.
And he had a great career, and that's why I wanted to be a football player, because I wanted to be like Terry Metcalf. I mean, it was on Twitter last week. What poster did you have on your wall when you were a kid? And I tweeted Terry Metcalf.
Yeah.
And so that's who I always wanted to be. And so I think, I don't know if I would be where I am or my career would have been like it was if not for my dad, because when I was younger, and I was smaller, he used to always tell me, don't worry about your size. Size doesn't really matter, because he would tell me that when he was young, people would tell him you're never going to make it because of your size, But him having that confidence to make it and become the player he was gave me confidence that I could do it. And so, I just think, because I've always been considered too small. Too small. He's too small. He's too small. He's too small. He can't do this. And okay, we're just gonna have to prove you wrong when I get on the football field.
Yep.
I'm gonna prove you wrong. And it goes back to like when I was being recruited by Texas. I don't tell this story often, but because I didn't really know the end of the story until after I was gone from Texas. But a track coach is who found me. We were actually sitting at a track meet that I was competing in, and we were talking, and then I told him my name. He's like, "Oh, you related to Terry Metcalf?" Yeah, that's my dad. And he was, "Do you play football?" Yes, I do. And it was small talk for the most part, because what event do you do? I do the long jump, and I'm gonna win. Yes, I told him I'm gonna win. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "I guarantee I will win." And so,
all right.
and so after I won, he came and sat by me, and that's when he really started digging into who I was and trying to find out, did I play football? And so he goes back to Texas and tells the football coach that they need to recruit me, because obviously he wanted them to get me so he could have me, because it wouldn't be a scholarship. It wouldn't be a scholarship that he would have to use, right?
Yeah,
The football team got me, and so and he told me the story like years after that I left Texas and played in the NFL that when I sent my film, they had me send my film, and I sent my film in. They said Coach Akers, Fred Akers, who was our head coach at the time, had the entire staff in there watching my film. And he asked everyone, "What do you think?" And they said, and he tells me that the majority of the coaching staff said, he's too small. He can't, he's playing in a Catholic school league. He can't come to Texas and do this. And Coach Akers, and he told him, Coach Akers told him, well, I want him. I think he can.
There you go.
Because he was smarter than those guys.
Well, there's a reason why he's the head coach.
He was smarter than those guys. And then, and so then, you know, you always hear about Texas football, Texas high school football, and how it's the mecca of high school football. And so I actually get down there, and I'm with my college roommate, and we're talking, and this is our freshman year. We haven't even started yet. And I said to him, either I'm real good or Texas football isn't what they think it is. And he just looked at me and said, why can't it be both?
That's true. There you go. Well, all right then. I like him. That's great. That is awesome. Wow.
So I've got
I say that it's just because I've pretty much been doubted my whole life, but because of size. If I were bigger and doing the same thing, people wouldn't think twice.
Well, Eric, honestly, you know, I've always been doubted my whole life because I'm a girl. You know, girls can't talk football, girls can't play football, girls can't do this, girls can't do that. And my grandfather, you know, the one I always talk about, is the one that told me I could. So, you know, you got to take your inspiration, you know, the people that are in your life that inspire you, like your dad and my grandfather, and use those words and block out the negativity and just go for it.
For sure. Because I mean, if you let what people say hold you back, then you're never going to attempt to do anything, because there's always going to be some haters out there who don't want to see you succeed anyway.
Yep.
And so you just have to have tunnel vision and do what you set out to do. And sometimes we might not be successful in that.
That's right.
But it's not going to be because I didn't try.
That's right. At least you tried.
That's right.
At least you tried.
Yeah. So, Eric, I have a two-part question, and let me give you the first part here is, do return men get enough credit? And the second part, and if you don't want to answer this, I will understand, is because this kind of came up earlier, is, are you a Hall of Famer? And I'll understand if you want to pass on that.
or I'm not going to pass on that.
Okay. All right. Some guys want to talk about it, some don't. So yeah, I definitely wanted to give you a chance to talk about it.
I'm definitely not going to pass on that.
Okay.
But I don't to answer part one, returners don't get a lot of credit. They don't get the credit they deserve. I mean, because everybody thinks of it as in terms of touchdowns, and instead of thinking about it as what you actually do for the offense, right? I mean, when we're talking about kick returns, and we'll start out talking about kick returns. If you're a kick returner, and they back in the day before they changed the rules, and you're getting the ball kicked to you, and you're able to return it to the 40 or the 50, we'll say, you have shortened the field for the offense. The drive doesn't have to be that long. And even if it's for a field goal, now you only got to get 30 yards.
Yep.
30 yards to get a field goal. Whereas if they're kicking in the end zone or your return is not very good and you're only getting to a 20, you got to go a long way against very good defensive players to score touchdowns and score points. And so I think that people don't really understand that because they think, oh, it's special team. It's not really a part of the game, but it is a part of the game. Now when we're talking about punt return. If you have someone special back there who can get you 14 yards a return, or even a touchdown or a long game, it's the same thing. You are shortening the field for the offense, and so returners don't get credit for that. Whereas the special people are changing the game. They're not only shortening the field for the offense. They're getting touchdowns. They're setting you up to score. They're changing the game because kickoff returns. When you get a kickoff return, if you're able to return a kickoff return for a touchdown, two things would happen. It's either the start of the first or second half of the game, or the other team has scored. Yep. So So if you take it back to the house, these are game-changing moments because if the team scored and now you return it, you have just shifted all the momentum, right? And then if you return one of the opening kickoff, like I did against the Jets,
then 98 yards.
Then you are starting the game off with a bang, or even coming out the tunnel at halftime. If you return
with a bang, you blew that up.
or even return it after halftime.
Yeah.
You have instantly shifted momentum of the game, and it's the same with a punt return. Your defense has stopped the offense. Now you get it. Now they have to kick the ball to you, and you run to the house. Once again, you have changed the momentum of the game, and so of course returners don't get as much credit as they deserve, especially very good ones. I mean, like I said, it comes down to numbers and touchdowns and everything for people to be appreciated. Because if you don't score a lot of touchdowns, then no one really appreciates the guy. But a guy could average 20 yards on a punt return, and that would be phenomenal. Yeah. But no one will really pay attention to it unless he scores touchdowns. And so, yeah, the returners are very undervalued, and I think that's we say that we're trying to be it's a safety thing, and that's why we're like allowing these kickers to kick it into the end zone every time, and I get that, but you're taking good players out of the game by doing so. Yeah. Because if Devin Hester doesn't have these opportunities to return these kicks, then who is he on the football field? You know? And so it makes it rough. The returners, very good ones, they're special, and they're special to their teams. And I guarantee each team that has one of those special guys appreciates him. And then those teams who have to face that, they appreciate them. But I think it's those people outside the box that don't really appreciate it. And so, because it's not really considered the football game, but it is, because there's three phases of the game, right?
Yep.
And then part two of your question, yes, I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. No, I'm not, and I'm not saying it just because I'm talking about myself. I say it because numbers. Being a football player, I mean, 17,000 yards.
Yep.
Without hardly getting the ball as much as I should have or could have is a lot of yards. And once again, I think about being the first person to be in double figures in punt return. I once had the record for most combined kicks. Only did kickoff returns sparingly. Only didn't really return punts until my fourth year. Mm-hmm. And all the things I could do. I mean, I don't know if there are a lot of people who could do all those things and be successful at them. I mean, because I think when I retired, I was in the top 10 of all-purpose yards of all time.
Yeah, I think I read that. I think you're right. Yeah.
I think so. And then, so there,
Well, you would know.
I think so. There are a lot of, there are a lot of things that would make me say yes. And like I said, it's not just because I'm talking about myself. It's because what I think I did while I was in the league, and of course, it's like they say quarterbacks can't get in. Really, they don't really get in if they don't win Super Bowl. But you can have a great career and not win Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can have a great career, your team just might not be good enough, right?
Yeah.
But if you're able to go out there on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday nights, what have you, and make game-changing plays that give your team victories, on top of having certain numbers, I think that should get you in.
I agree.
I agree too, and I think there's too much emphasis on how many rings guys have. I mean, especially in football, when a team is there's so many players that contribute on a football team. How are you going to hold it against one guy that the team didn't win? That the teams he was on didn't win a title or titles.
Right.
It
tough.
just doesn't make sense
at all, because, like you said, there are too many moving parts on a football team.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have every the offense, the defense, they can play lights out, and you can go out there and the field goal kicker might miss a field goal. Everybody can play lights out, and I may fumble a ball. The defense could play lights out, and the guy might miss a tackle that is a last-second touchdown, things like that. So that doesn't make you a bad player, or things just don't happen because there's so many moving parts, and it just doesn't work out for everyone.
Sometimes it doesn't seem fair, if you ask me.
I mean, life isn't fair.
Amen.
The Hall of Fame's
come
definitely
on.
not fair.
I could still complain about it, though.
It's not.
Life isn't fair, but when you're talking numbers,
exactly,
and what people have actually done on the field, I think there are a lot of people who have done some good things who at least should be in conversation.
Well, your data is there. It proves it that you deserve it. So that's just my opinion. What do I know?
Well, I appreciate you.
Definitely.
You're a little biased, but I appreciate you.
I know. I'm totally biased. I don't care. I am totally biased. I will wear that like a T-shirt.
So, Eric, who were a few of your favorite teammates in Cleveland?
Oh, I have so many. I mean, but I always start with the first two, because it's a hilarious story, and that's Kevin Mack and Reggie Langhorne.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I mean, then I start with those two because those guys told me when I first got to Cleveland that they didn't like me. both of those guys.
Awesome.
First
thing they said to
you? No,
I don't like you.
They told me later, but when you first got here, I didn't like you. And now, of the people I actually played with, they're probably the two I talk to the most.
Yeah.
Wow. And they say they didn't like me because when I got there, I'm first round pick. I came from Texas, and I thought I was the guy, and I get it, and I always say because I'm just cool. It had nothing. It had nothing to do with thinking I was just cool, and
you had the swagger even back then, huh?
Yeah, and while I was the first pick and everything, I expected to be there, and so that's why I was cool. I mean, because I wasn't jumping around. Oh, I'm acting like a rookie and all that. But once again, I got to see it firsthand watching my dad and everything. But I expected to be in that position, and so for me to get there and be like, oh, this guy's been playing for this many years, and I need to bow down to them. And no, I didn't feel like I need to be like that. I just feel like I just need to be me, go out there and play, and we'll see what happens. And then those guys, like I said, took me in, and like I talked to them probably more than I talked to anybody I played with. And then of course it was Webster Slaughter, Eric Turner, rest in peace, Leroy Horde. There were so many guys, and even on different teams that I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed playing with, but I could never tell this story without talking about Reggie and Kevin, because I could understand what they were thinking, but it wasn't that. It's actually my second time going through it. I just wasn't playing the first time. I was watching.
Yeah.
With
yeah,
my dad.
but you learn a lot.
Right.
You seem to learn how to not act when you see like your dad going through the same stuff, and you're like, okay, you always keep, as a kid, you always keep that kind of stuff back in your brain, like, okay, I shouldn't do this. Because to me, with all these stories that you're telling, it seems to me that very early on, you had a winner mentality. You knew what you wanted to do. You worked your ass off to do it, and you got there. And so you didn't need all the fluff and the sparkle and the whatever. You just went in, did your job, and went home, and you just happen to be one of the legends that we have in Cleveland.
To your point, I knew what I wanted to do. My buddy who I grew up with here always talks about that when we were in grade school, how I practiced my signature. Because I knew this is what I was going to do. He always talks about that. And then I have another story, because when my dad played in Toronto, when he left the Cardinals and went to Toronto Argonauts and played, their seasons earlier than the NFL, obviously. So I was able to go up there in the summer, and they set up a locker for myself.
Aw.
And I had pads, I had helmet, I had uniform, I had everything. 21 Metcalf. And so I would dress up and go to practice, and then go do the drills, the first part of the practice with those guys. And then when they started really practicing, I'd come out. And so this is who I was going to be. This is what I expected to do. And so it wasn't about being a cocky first round pick. It was about just being me and expecting that this was going to happen to me one day.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
So Eric, what was your 40? And I know 40 times probably weren't the same back then. I mean, because I don't think they had the combine back in '89. But what was your? Did they have the combine that far back?
They had the combine. They had the combine when my dad and those guys played. But
okay. What was your 40 time?
4.28, and I ran 4.32, and I had the third fast. I tied for either second or third fastest of the combine. Dion was first, I think.
Yeah.
And then
that's cool.
I think Carnell Lake and I were second.
Nice.
You could have just said quick. I was real quick.
Yeah, I knew you were in that 4.2 range. So here's the question: Have you run a 40 recently?
Oh no.
He's like, oh no.
I was just curious. I know you keep yourself in shape and work out everything.
Now I don't run anything but my mouth.
Yeah. Hey, that's all right.
I understand. I don't run at all. I walk. I walk a lot, but I'm not running anything. I'm too scared. I'm too scared to run. I think I'll get hurt.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. So
that's why you run your mouth quickly, huh?
Yes.
You just switched. That's all.
That's it.
Now I know who I get it from. I'm just kidding.
Right.
I can blame you now.
Right. Go ahead. I don't mind.
Eric said it. I'm learning from him. He's teaching me.
Hey, before we kind of finish up here, I did want to get some of your just kind of your general thoughts on what the Browns have done this offseason, and the new regime and that. What are your expectations? What do you like about the team, and what do you think going forward for the season, Eric?
I feel good about it. I mean, I honestly felt good about it last year, and we underachieved. But what we've done in the draft and free agency this year to even make the team stronger on paper is phenomenal. Coach Stefanski and those guys, they're doing a good job as far as the structure of the team. I think I had talked to one of my friends who used to coach with Kevin in Minnesota, and when he came, when they hired Kevin, he told me he's a very good coach, and he's going to teach players how to play football. It's about teaching instead of throwing out plays and going out there and you guys go succeed. He said it's teaching, and so I'm very confident in what we have, because we had a very good team on paper last year. We just didn't do it in between the white line, and now to have leadership and Andrew and Kevin to put this team together and knowing that if everybody does their job, it could be a wonderful season is something I'm looking forward to. And you know, and I think it has nothing to do with the team, but it does. I think it would just be so cool for them to go to the playoffs in these new throwback uniforms.
Yes.
Oh, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know about you.
Yes.
I looked at those uniforms. I'm like, what they changed? I'm thinking, I've seen those before.
Yeah, when Eric played.
Yeah, I'm like, those are the uniforms I'm used to.
Hello. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw a picture of you and Bernie, and I think it was EB standing, or I don't remember, but it was a picture of you guys standing next to each other. I was like, wait a second. I know those uniforms. I was so happy to see those, because now if you see some of these other uniforms that are out, they look like walking highlighters. They're just bright and very XFL-like, and I don't know. I had, when those new uniforms, the new old school is what I say, came out, I was so excited about it. I was like, you know what? I might be feeling a little bit hyped now, because if they could bring the magic back, like we had, you know, like people like yourself, Eric, that played in those uniforms with them. Oh my God, how epic would that be?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, you know, and I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I think once again, I think it could be. I think we can get to the dance, and once you get to the dance, everybody has a shot. Right.
Yep.
And so that's the key. Just get yourself in the dance, and we have the players, we have the coaching. I think everybody knows now that you have to actually go do it. Last year there was a lot of talk about doing it, and just expecting to do it, just because of the players that we had on paper.
Yep.
Now, because it wasn't successful, knowing the talent that we had, I think it'll make guys who are on the team now look at it differently and know we still have to actually do it. We still have to practice. We still have to know our stuff when we go out on that field, and everybody will work harder because they have something to prove. I mean, everybody knows that we have unbelievable talent, but they still have something to prove. Can you put that talent together and go out there and win? Because we have, once again, unbelievable players, but they have to be able to go and do it between those white lines, and that's where it's tough.
Yeah. Eric, do you have any projects going on that you want to get out there, or where are we going to find you in the fall this season?
In Cleveland.
Okay.
Right where you belong.
on channel 19 tailgate.
All
there
right.
you go. All right.
So yeah, I'll be doing that still.
Excellent.
And hopefully, and I'll probably go to a few road games and with some Browns backers and all that. So, you know, I like to get to the Browns games and hang out and be around, and it's even more fun if they're winning, right? So, and we're looking forward to them.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to them winning. So it's gonna be fun.
Well, I hope after 20 plus years and not getting your autograph, I might actually get it this year.
I'll sell it to you.
Oh, you sell it to me. Oh, I see. All right, I got $1.
That'll get you an E.
Oh, how about this, Eric?
That'll
You can
get you
forever live in my heart. There you go.
That dollar will get you an E, and it won't.
An E.
And it won't even be capital.
No, thanks.
$2 for the capital.
$2 for the capital. Got it. I love it. I love it.
Hey, I gotta say, everybody needs to follow you on Twitter, Eric. It's at Eric Metcalf 21. It doesn't get any easier than that, and you should have way more followers than you do. So everybody in Cleveland should be following you.
I'll tell you, a lot of that has to do because I wasn't really into Twitter. I don't even know when the account started, and so I'll tell you this because when I first got the account, it was when I went to the combine with the Browns and I filmed doing the drills, and so they set the account up, and someone was just doing it while I was at the combine talking about the drills and stuff like that, and so I never. So even after that, I never had control of it.
Oh, okay.
And the person who had actually set the account up had left the Browns, and so nobody knew any passwords, and I didn't really care at the time, but no one really knew any passwords. So it took me a long time to get control of it, and so then I got control of it a couple of years ago, and then that's when I started.
I'm stalking your account right now, and it says February 2014 is when you created your account.
Right. See, but then I didn't actually start doing anything till maybe
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, and I see how you capitalized Eric in America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
Where it says your location. Yes, you're right in the middle.
There's an Eric or an EM in everything if you look close enough.
Yeah.
Where is he sitting? Right in the middle of America, right?
There you go.
You can't have America without Eric.
That's right. Amen. Amen to that. Yeah. Oh, now, see, now I think you're pushed us a little. That's awesome. I love it. Heck yeah.
Hey, Rachel, why don't you give your Twitter handle out so people can give you a follow?
Oh, shoot. I got to remember it. Hold on. Okay, so it's at redhead, REDDHEADD _13.
All right, and you can follow me at CleRodB. Rachel, I'm going to give you the last question.
Oh, my gosh.
For Eric? I just think that to be funny. I know you don't have anything.
I don't have anything. I'm just going to take this time to thank you for coming on the show. You know, it's not often that people like myself who have been a lifelong Browns fan get to talk to you guys, you know, on a one-on-one basis, and you actually, you know, be as personable as you are and answering all the football questions that we have. And it was just an honor and a joy for me to sit here just for a couple hours even and get to know you and get to talk to you a little more.
I appreciate it. I had a good time for sure.
Good, good. You want to come on again?
Sure.
Cool. See, you heard it there, Rod. I got him.
Okay, we'll book you for next week, Eric.
Yeah, right.
No, I can't say any better than that. It's just been a lot of fun.
No, it's seriously, yeah, it was.
Yeah, we look up to all you guys, and man, just watching your highlights and just watching your career, it's just very special to talk to you. So definitely appreciate you taking some time to spend with us, to talk some Browns, to kind of fill us in and to give us some breaking news and some great stories. Just been a lot of fun.
And I never want to hear you ever say again that you were a former Brown. You are always going to be a Brown.
I mean, I am, but it's just something to say. Your daughter would know. If I said I'm a Brown right now, she thinks, no, you're not.
Yeah, she probably. Yeah, actually, she would say
You're
that
kind
to
of
you.
stuck, yeah.
No, you're not. You were on the team when Mom was a girl.
Right. See, no, you're not.
She is my twin, so yes, she would say that.
That's right. See.
I love
Well,
it.
thanks so much. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.